When this originally came down, I think everybody agreed to do their due diligence on the front end. Like, cool, we get it. Like, we'll shut down, like we'll sort it out. But then it started to get a little bit less clear, and the pain started to really set in. So I tell everybody this because this is just due diligence, which is you should call the police department and you should say, who is going to be issuing these tickets? Right? Because if they're spread thin, the answer is probably nobody. And then the second question is like, okay, so they give me a ticket. How, like, because I don't know how it was in California, Craig, but here everybody was waving the "we're going to pull your business license" flag, and so then I was asking, like, well, who's going to do that? Like, who is the person or entity that is going to pull my business license? And this is the point I think you're going to bring up, Jeff, which is like, well, like the health department. So I asked the question. I said, how does that ticket make it from the police department once it gets into the system over to the health department? They're like, well, so-and-so would have to take it over. There has to be some paperwork filed. And you have to go through this process. Cool. I call the health department. I'm like, hey, who's going to process this? And they're like, we don't even manage gyms. And I was like, so nothing is going to happen basically. But people are so afraid of the boogeyman and they're saying that we're going to pull your business license. Like, I'm just going to shut down. And I'm like, but it's not going to happen if you just kind of do your due diligence and stand up. But to both of your points earlier, which is, okay, so that you do have to go to court. Well, courts here are backed up for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. I'm not going to court for 2 years if I get subpoenaed right now. Right. It's not happening. That gives me 24 months to figure it out. Like, maybe I can fight this over the next 24 months if I choose to just kind of stand my ground and do that. And again, I want everybody to do their own risk assessment, but what I really want people to do is ask more questions. And one of the ones is what we talked about the other day, Jeff, which is kind of this kind of gray area that most people have with regard to licensing. And this is unknowingly beneficial to gyms, which is one of the fights that Coach Glassman was on forever, which was fighting licensure. If CrossFit affiliates had to carry licenses from a governing body, meaning the government, you could shut everybody down. They could just pull licenses willy-nilly.
So what I'm hoping is part of this is that people hear this, and it doesn't just apply to CrossFit boxes or gyms or the fitness industry, because I really think, I really believe in this. These applications are for every small business owner. And so one of the questions is, who's going to enforce this and how's it going to be enforced? I'll give you a perfect example. Our city, Shreveport, Louisiana, is not that small, 250,000, 300,000 people. Our mayor came out right around the time that the governor came out with the mask mandate. And the mayor came out with a mask mandate, and he said publicly they were going to pull your business licenses. Well, some businesses got together, hired an attorney, filed a suit against the mayor, and got it overturned. I mean, within a month. And the mayor simply did not have the statutory power to A, make the mask mandate, or B, have any criminality or pull any licenses. The problem we're seeing is that there are people in the government making statements and everybody's just believing it. I am absolutely pro cop. I'm pro police, pro law enforcement, but I have seen video after video, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, police officers saying that they're going to arrest a business owner. And, I question whether they have the authority to do that. Now, again, it comes down to specific statutes, but there have been a lot of statements made by governmental officials of, this is what I'm going to do to you. And you're exactly right, Fern. We've got to ask the questions. So you start looking at who is going to quote unquote shut you down. It's one thing to get fines like Craig got, and I think he absolutely did the right thing. And absolutely did the right. He had a great lawyer, because as a business lawyer, that's what I tell my clients all the time. Hey, if you want to spend $100,000 to make a point, hey, I'm your man. Let's do it. You could pay me $100,000. I'll take it. But really, it comes down to dollars and cents. It's got to make economic sense. And that's what good lawyers do, is they tell their clients, look, yeah, we can go to the mat on it. You can make a great point. You might win, and you'll be everybody's hero, but you're going to spend $50,000 in the process. So you have to look at the enforcement mechanism. So for like my medical clients, they have a medical board of examiners. They have licensures that literally, if they're open, they can come and pull their license. Okay. So they're in a little bit different spot. The way they got to bars and restaurants after the quarantine, when people weren't supposed to be in bars and restaurants, or they were having too many people in there, was the alcohol licensure boards, the state boards, But if you're just a retail establishment or you're a gym, you've got to start looking at who is going to enforce this against me and how's it going to be enforced. And then you also have a lawyer that is going to start looking at the statutes that are applicable and seeing if they have a criminal or penal nature to them that allow them. A lot of municipalities don't have the powers that the governors have. And so if a governor makes a mandate in our state, there is a fine and an imprisonment for emergency mandates. But then the state has to enforce that. And they don't necessarily get to use the local police to do that. And so you start
just to clarify, in that scenario, a state trooper would have to come.
I think so. I mean, I think, there's a real disconnect with having a city police officer come in and enforce the governor's mandate on you and issue you a ticket. I wonder where that authority comes from. Again, let me also say, I'm not a constitutional lawyer.
Right.
I do a decent amount of governmental law and represent some municipalities. But I've studied this for my clients. And so, the enforcement. And so let's go back to gyms and box owners. The enforcement mechanism there is your certificate of occupancy. So who is going to shut you down? I mean, I really don't know. That
would be the fire department.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you're talking about.
I got firefighters to work here. I think I'm good.
Well, you're talking about authorities that these institutions have never exerted, right? I mean, they're going to go to, like you said, the health department and tell health department, you need to go shut this gym down. They're like, we don't even control gyms. So you really got to question who's got the authority. Now, can they come and write you tickets? Yes. And again, Fern, you said you do the risk analysis and you determine, okay, I'm going to take these tickets. And then at some point I'm going to either decide I'm going to cry uncle because it's too much money, or I'm going to keep going. I mean, Craig told us, I think before we got on the air that, that he came out ahead financially by taking the fines, paying the fines, and staying open. And so I think you have to look at that. But this whole thing about I'm going to arrest you or I'm going to close your business down. I'm not saying that that's bull, but I'm also saying that you need to be prepared and look at that, because when that statement's made to you, just like Craig did, it made it uncomfortable for those guys giving him fines. When you come back and say, I know for a fact because of X, Y, and Z, you don't have that authority.